What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters, and welcome to Life Metal. It's time for a non-metal update. That's right. Gonna do a non-metal update. This is all rock, a little bit of hard rock, mostly just straightforward rock. First up, the one that's playing in the background, this is Eric Bell's newest album. Now, this album I got in on the Kickstarter or whatever campaign funder they were using back in the day, way back at least a year ago, if not longer. And I kind of figured it was never going to come. It was supposed to come out in November of 2017, and it didn't, and then December, and it just never was coming. So I just kind of assumed it was money lost. You know, it would have been the first time I actually ever lost money on one of those campaigns, but you know, it wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't a whole lot of money. But regardless, Eric Bell finally showed up in the mail. The person who mailed these out did a horrible job. They were just sent in manila envelopes with no protection on the record whatsoever. Thankfully, the record made it without being busted in half. But if I get this into the right light, you'll be able to see the, see if I can show you the, take it out of the plastic baggy thing, you can see it better. Anyhow, you can see the corners are all dinged up, and this one corner is really dinged up. Where is that? Up here. See if I can show you if I get the glare right on here. There you go. You can really see right there where it's just really chewed up. It's not that horrible. You know, I was a little irritated when it first showed up like that, but then I was just so excited about hearing some new music from former Thin Lizzy guitarist Eric Bell. I just popped it on, and you know, I forgot about the cover being bent up. You know, it's not that bad, and considering it actually finally came, I don't really care. I'm just glad it showed up. For doing the campaign, and I suppose for waiting so long, I was kind of surprised to find out that Eric Bell signed some of these. So this one is signed. It says, "Best wishes, Eric Bell." Again, if you don't know who Eric Bell is, he was the original guitar player in Thin Lizzy back in you know, early '70s when they were doing more of the power trio, you know, Cream, Hendrix meets Irish folk thing, you know, back when they recorded Whiskey in a Jar and The Rocker and songs like that. So very cool to have that. Brand new album from him. Very glad to have it. I guess it's considered a 2017 release. I didn't get it until 2018, so it may end up making my 2018 list. Sounds varies from blues, which you can kind of hear in the background. This is actually a traditional blues song, Backdoor Man. He also has a Mystery Train, which is also a traditional blues song that UFO used to cover a lot live. And but most of the songs are original songs. A little bit of that old school Irish Thin Lizzy thing going on, but it's all over the place. A little bit of hard rock, a little bit of funk, a little bit of blues, a little bit of everything. And it's a very good album. I really enjoyed it. Good album to just kick back to, and I enjoy actually working to it. So there you go. Eric Bell. Speaking of Thin Lizzy, this is one of those Thin Lizzy grails. This is Funky Junction plays tribute to Deep Purple. This was released back in early 70s. I think it was like 74 or 73, somewhere in that area. But this was all the Thin Lizzy guys and some additional people playing Deep Purple songs. And so you've got Brian Downey on drums, you've got Eric Bell on guitar, you've got Philip Lynott on bass. He does not sing, he's just the bass player. And you can really hear that his early skills weren't quite up to what they would become in the later 70s. You know, the more he practiced, the more he played, the more he was out. He just became, you know, one of the great bass players in rock and roll. But here, these early years, you can kind of hear he's a little off here and there. But regardless, this is kind of a fun album. The jam on it, lots of cool Deep Purple songs, but there's also some jams on here as well. Black Knight, Strange Kind of Woman, Speed King, Hush, Fireball. So those are the kind of things you're going to hear on this. Very cool album. From what I understand from a friend of mine in the UK, these things show up in the discount bins over there all the time. In the United States, these don't show up anywhere. Thin Lizzy fans clamor for these things, and they sell on eBay for at least $30 usually. I scored this one fairly cheap on Discogs, actually, in very good condition. The record's in excellent condition. Cover's got a little bit of wear, barely some, you know, some ring wear, but you know, it's just got some grease to it, and I like it. It's mine. Good album. More of a Thin Lizzy collectible than anything that I'll spend a lot of time listening to, but regardless. This is BUDGIE, and This is SQUAWK. I believe it was their third album, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that, but always love this album cover. First of all, the simplicity of it, yet the complexity at the same time. This is Roger Dean, who I think is one of the great album cover artists of all time. Just really dig his work, and this is a great album. It's just straightforward hard rock, or the first wave of British heavy metal, if that's what you want to call it. That's what I would call it. Whiskey Man, Rockin' Man, Make Me Happy, Drugstore Woman, Bottled, Young is a Wild. I want to try it one more time. Young is a World, Stranded, and of course, Hot is a Doctor's Armpit, which is probably the most well-known track on this album. This is a repressing, which is, I'm glad they finally got repressed, because most of the copies I saw out, I picked up in the past or seen, they're always trashed. This one is mint, sounds great on heavy vinyl, very well done. Looks just like the original. The cover art's very well done. It's not all pixelated, done from a cassette tape or something. So there you go. BUDGIE, UK band, 70s, one of the first wavers of the British heavy metal sound and scene. This next band was formed in 1974, I believe, and they're out of Sweden. This is Jerusalem. Kind of 70s hard rock. This one was released in 1978. Was originally released in their own language, in Swedish. This one was re-released in 1980 in English, but it's basically the same album with English lyrics. That's what this one is here. I've never actually even heard the original Swedish version. This is the one I've ever heard. So I scored this album from 78 and their second album from 1980. This was volume 2. I got them in a group sale. They were sold together on eBay. And I'm working on some reissues on CD for Retroactive Records, so I grabbed the copies for myself to basically listen to while I'm working on them. And just because they were super clean, I was able to use these, since it's going on CD, I was able to scan these 100%, scale them down, and get some really nice looking artwork. But this is great music to also, I really enjoy Jerusalem. I have some of their other stuff on vinyl, just didn't have these two until now. Little more, in that early 80s, late 70s vibe than they did later on as they got more into the 80s, and they started getting a little heavier and, pushing towards the heavy metal stuff. This is more just straightforward heavy rock. Some more mellow moments, some more, acoustic moments as well, but still, very good stuff. Ulf Christensen is the guitar player and vocalist in this band, and, he's been the main driving force behind it ever since. This band was formed in the early 70s. This is their first album. This is Dirty Tricks. This is another UK band, hard rock. I wouldn't ever call these guys heavy metal. They were just straightforward hard rockers. They released 3 albums. As each one came out, I think they got a little poppier, not like Cheap Trick, power pop, that kind of thing. But this album is just straightforward hard rock. Really good album. This is one that's just a pain to find. I was able to get this one off of a trader on the cassette CD and Record Asylum on Facebook, and really glad to have it. Really cool that he was willing to trade it off to me, because it's just one I've been missing. I had their second and third, always wanted the first. Glad to finally have it. Simple album cover, does the trick. Dirty Trick. Yeah, these guys were out touring with bands like BUDGIE, and I think they toured with Argent back in the day. They also toured in the United States with, I think, Blue Oyster Cult and Cheap Trick, and I think they actually even toured with Bob Seger at one time. But regardless, that if you like any of that kind of sound, that 70s rock sound, the heavy hard rock sound, Dirty Tricks will do that for you. Kind of, hard rock like in the Cheap Trick vein, not hard rock like as in Black Sabbath. It's not that heavy, but still very good stuff. UK band, Dirty Tricks. This is the last one I'm going to show. This is 80s prog rock band, Prodigal. Now, when I think prog rock, to me, that's, King Crimson and Yes and Nectar and Genesis and, Nectar and just bands like that. This is 80s sound. This is more... I would compare it more to like a Saga, where it is progressive, but it's keyboard driven. It's more pop in its direction, and it's just not quite what I think of when I think of prog rock, despite the fact that that's what they're generally described as. I do quite enjoy this album, and I do quite enjoy this band. Never actually heard them before. Was working on a reissue of this for Retroactive Records. It's coming out on CD for the very first time, and I bought this brand new sealed copy. so that I could have the original artwork to scale down and make it look good on the CD. And while I was working on it, I listened to it and was quite impressed with it. I found out that the original keyboard player, Lloyd Boldman, has since passed away, and he actually released a very obscure solo album that was only ever released on cassette, and Retroactive's putting that out on CD as well. But I worked quite a bit with Rick Fields, the vocalist, one of the vocalists and the guitar player in this band. Really nice guy. Really enjoyed working with them, and really anxious for their 3 albums to come out on CD. If you like that kind of sound, Saga, maybe even like Marillion, you'll probably dig Prodigal as well. Very cool album cover. I thought it was a great cover, which is why I'm showing it. And yeah, very good band. Check them out if you haven't heard of them. Retroactive Records actually has a YouTube channel, and they have uploaded some of their songs onto YouTube to check out. So there you go. So that's my non-metal updates for, what are we in now? March of 2018. Appreciate y'all watching. Have a great day. God bless and stay strong.